Hello and welcome to this on-demand webinar for mTuitive customers focused on our new mTuitive Insight, utilizing your mTuitive data with mTuitive Insight. Your presenters today will be mTuitive CEO Colin Murphy and President and Chief Software Architect Peter O'Toole. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Colin and Peter.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We brought everybody here today to talk about our newest product that we're just bringing to market, mTuitive Insight. For 20 years, as everyone on the phone knows, all of our customers have been using our software to capture structured data, build clinical reports, comply with their reporting requirements across different geographies for both pathology and for surgery. We often get the question, now that we're capturing all this great structured, discrete, coded data, what can we do with it? And our questions back to our customers have always been, well, what do you want to do with it? How, we want to figure out what we can do to really empower you to investigate this data and send this data downstream and use this data for various different purposes. It's taken a while, but we're finally at critical mass. We've got a lot of customers who are helping us to answer those questions. And Insight's the product that we're bringing to the market that's going to provide those solutions. First and foremost, Insight is a database. We're aggregating structured data from multiple data sources. Anything that comes in from mTuitive software is already structured, coded according to the standard requirements that you're following for your clinical reporting. But we're also going to supplement that data with information coming in from the LIS, from the EHR, from third-party systems, whether that be for molecular reporting, NGS reporting, or other types of lab tests or information that you need to, that you want to combine with the structured information from your mTuitive products. So what does that look like? Well, first, again, we are going to be sending that information in from all of your mTuitive products. We're going to get feeds from your HIS and APLIS systems. HL7, FHIR will support just about any standard that's out there to pull that information in. We've reorganized all of the information in mTuitive Insight so that it's easier to report on. So if you look at the systems that you have in place to support your mTuitive pathology, mTuitive surgery applications, those products are there to serve the pathologist and the surgeon to complete their clinical reports, to retrieve their clinical reports, to sign out cases for those specific patients. What Insight does is it reorganizes the data so that you can report on it in an aggregate fashion. You can look at all of the cases that you've signed out and learn things from that information in an aggregate format. Once we get all that information into Insight, we want to do stuff with it. And what are we going to do? Well, first and foremost, there's three bullet points here that we want to talk about. First and foremost, we are not going to be the end-all, be-all data warehouse that is going to solve all of your oncology inquiries. We know that there are many teaching institutions and IDNs that are out there, and even community hospitals out there that have their own EDWs set up. They're using their own BI tools off the shelf to investigate their different data sources that they have in place. We want to enhance that. We want to make sure that we can deliver this discrete data to those data warehouses, or make your BI tools that you have, your Tableaus and Power BIs, more effective. So you can put those tools directly on top of Insight and do your own reporting. We're trying to enable that so that we're really freeing up this data for use for research and investigation. Downstream, there's other targets that would want this data. Cancer registries is an obvious one. There's other quality databases that you may be participating in where you want to send data out. We want to standardize those interfaces and reports to get that information out of Insight and into those downstream systems. The second bullet point is the purpose-built reports. And this is what Peter's going to show you today in the demonstration, the first iteration of our UI to investigate these data using these purpose-built reports. And these purpose-built reports are things that we've worked on with customers. We've asked our customers, what are your challenges? What do you need to ask of the clinical data that you're capturing? And some of the examples he will give you are based on exactly those conversations that we've had with those customers. We're looking to build more and more reports. Our developers are quickly, there's a backlog of reports that we're building, and our developers are picking those off one by one. And as we have new customers sign up, they'll be able to help us determine which ones to prioritize and maybe create new reports that they want to see. These reports can be anything for quality measurement, for regulatory compliance. One of the examples that Peter is going to show you is ER, PR, and HER2 negativity rates. This is something that for CAP inspections is required. You should be aiming to hit a specific target with the number of cases that are negative. And if you're outside of that range, then it is a sign that something may be wrong within the lab. Maybe your staining processes are off, or maybe your interpretations are off a little bit. But it gives you a hint that you should look at those processes and try and improve them. And Peter will have some other examples of other reports that we're looking to build. And then where this gets really exciting is in custom projects. Now that we have a way to investigate data across institutions, across hospitals, across departments, there's a lot of really interesting things we can do with it, with the data. These projects are going to be driven by work with our customers. Our customers may be working with industry, with pharmaceutical companies, with research companies. They may be trying to identify patients for clinical trials. They may be trying to identify tissue that can be used for special studies. These types of custom projects we want to engage with and help build specific SQL queries to extract that data from Insight and build custom dashboards that will serve these custom projects. As these come up, we want to make those projects available to anybody that's participating in Insight. Anything you explicitly decide that you want to participate in, we want to make available to you. We're not going to use your data for anything you don't want us to. But the opportunity will be there. So those are the real three areas that we're looking to investigate the data. So that last slide was basically an attempt to simplify the graphic that you're looking at here. And as you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got your data collection processes using mTuitive pathology, using mTuitive surgery. We may also be pulling in data through interfaces and APIs for molecular testing or NGS testing. We may be pulling in information from digital pathology systems or AI algorithms that are being run on digital images. There's lots of different ways to get information into Insight. We start with the synoptic reporting that you're doing with the mTuitive products, and we supplement that with other information that's available. And then the other three boxes that we're looking at are what we're using, again, to what we're looking at to do with the data. So we may be sharing that data through our standard APIs, our SQL, FHIR, and HL7 APIs that we've developed to share data with public health agencies or your own data warehouses or business intelligence applications. There's lots of places, lots of targets for this data that we can share the information. The second box is in the data analytics box, and this is here to really talk about the UI that mTuitive is developing. This is for the custom-built reports and dashboards that we will make available, and as those become available, anybody who subscribes to Insight will have access to all of the new reports that we're developing. And these will range anywhere across quality analytics to identifying patients that meet specific characteristics or producing information for regulatory compliance. The last box in the bottom right, data-enabled use cases. This, again, is where this can start to get really exciting when we start to look at investigating the aggregate data, not just across your own institution, but potentially across multiple institutions, working with academia, working with pharmaceutical companies to identify either characteristics or patients or tissue trends within the data, whatever it may be. These projects are going to be spearheaded by our customers, and we're going to do everything we can to support them and help to recruit other customers to participate in these projects. So Insight is looking to make your data accessible. We just kind of walked through the process of capturing data and making it available. Again, we'll just want to walk through one more time kind of the three areas that we're really focused on. And if you look at kind of the examples of the customers that we already have on Insight, data aggregation was a major benefit that they saw. Some of our customers had multiple sites and they wanted to aggregate data across the different hospitals. Some of our customers had ancillary data sources from NGS testing and molecular testing where they wanted to pull that information in and merge it with the structured data that's being captured through mTuitive applications. So the first step is really aggregating this data into mTuitive Insight and then using it to target those, sending it out to those other systems that may need access to the data. Looking at kind of the skinny data that we're capturing for pathology and for surgery and making that available to big data systems, larger enterprise data warehouses or business intelligence tools that are looking at larger sets of clinical data. Next is for quality measurement. And this is where the purpose-built reports and dashboards that mTuitive is building with our customers come into play. These are going to be very easy to use. They're going to be accessible to administrators to share with CAP inspectors or with their oncology team or their pathologist who are looking to identify patients that meet specific characteristics, or we're looking to measure quality across the care continuum. And then these bullet points, you can read them as well as I can, are some of the data services that we may be able to involve our customers in. One is that second bullet point there is one that has become much more interesting of late, or much more asked about of late, is validating whole slide imaging results. Having a process in place so that you can track the quality of the reporting on your whole slide imaging and comparing that to the glass slides. We want to walk through a customer example. Our very first customer for mTuitive Insight is the province of British Columbia. And again, we mentioned before that one of the major reasons that they were interested in purchasing Insight was because they wanted to aggregate data across all of their hospitals across the entire province and have that information in a single source. Now, British Columbia's challenge, they have 5 different health authorities using 5 different APLIS systems. There's 23 different reporting sites. They wanted to introduce a standard way to report on all of their cancer cases across all of those 23 reporting sites and have that system integrated with 5 different APLIS systems. They then wanted to make sure that they got a copy of all of those results from each one of those APLIS systems into a central repository. And that's what we did. So we built those interfaces with the different APLIS systems. We built Insight in a central location, and we supplemented all the synoptic data that they're capturing across those 23 sites with results feeds from each of the APLIS systems into Insight, so that we have a comprehensive view of the patient and their pathology cases in a central location. The first thing they wanted to do once they had all of this data in a single location was make it available to their cancer registry. And so they used the Oncolog cancer registry system. They wanted to get all of that data into their abstracts, into Oncolog, so they could eliminate a lot of the abstraction process that they currently go through to register those cases. They also had their own local BI tools that they were using, and they were looking to the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer to get some funding for quality initiatives that they were promoting. They had about 100 different, more than 100 different quality metrics that they wanted each of the provinces to start tracking. And this was basically investigating all of those diagnostic data that they're capturing using the mTuitive solutions. But organizing that data so that you could build those reports and build those dashboards was the real challenge. So we made Insight available to their BI tools so that they could actually do that. One of those examples of quality metrics that they produced, all of their was CPAC basically had a metric that said for every cancer, colon cancer resection that was performed, there should be at least 12 lymph nodes that are extracted from the surgery and examined by a pathologist. So this is a surgical measurement that we're looking at, but we're looking at the pathology data. We're looking at the gross examination and then the microscopic examination to make sure that there were 12 lymph nodes that were extracted and examined for metastases. What ended up happening was pretty amazing. When they put these metrics together, they were able to drill down to the individual surgeon level, to the hospital level, to the health authority level, and then across the entire province to get counts and percentages for that for those data. So the target metric was 90%. 90% of surgeries should have 12 lymph nodes extracted and examined. When they first produced reports, they were nowhere near close to 90%. The strategy that they employed was actually not to give an administrator access to any of the surgical, the individual performance data, but they did give every individual access to their own performance data. And that was benchmarked against how the hospital performed, how the health authority performed, and again, how the province was performing as a whole. What ended up happening was once individual surgeons saw that they were underperforming the 90% metric, they changed their practices. We saw that number rise from 70% compliance up to over 90% compliance in a matter of months. That was pretty powerful. And that was done without a carrot or a stick. It was just sharing that data back with the individual surgeons so they knew how they were performing. When we talked about the local BI tools that British Columbia was using, they actually used Microsoft Excel as their presentation layer. We've taken all of this intellectual property that they built into Microsoft Excel, and we're starting to aggregate that into our own platform, which is a web-based platform, and it's a little more user-friendly and accessible than Microsoft Excel. But here you can see they've got a number of different metrics here, and they're looking at a specific time frame, looking at just their core metrics, and they can identify which individual surgeon is looking at this information, looking at the individual surgeon's information. And you can see here under percentage of colon resections with at least 12 lymph nodes examined. Apologies, my cursor's on the wrong screen. We're looking at the fifth line down here, right here, that this surgeon is actually underperforming against that 90% metric, but their hospital is achieving that metric, as is the health authority. And the province, unfortunately, is just shy of that metric. Now, this is all fictitious data. We're showing just for demonstration purposes. But as the months went on, these numbers all started going up and getting into the green, which was, again, pretty powerful. This is just another way that you can view the information that we're presenting in graphical format. And here's another example. And British Columbia actually was able to use this data to go back to the Canadian government to get more funding so that they could improve their rates of biomarker testing for breast, colorectal, and endometrial cancers. What they found was basically that if you lived in certain regions, those biomarker testings were not being performed, they were not available, and they had to figure out how not only to implement a process so that the testing could be done, but they could also be paid for, so that you could have equal access for all patients across British Columbia. And that's just a couple examples of things that we learned from the data. And there's a handful more. If anybody wants to learn more, please feel free to reach out. I'm going to hand over to Peter so he can give a quick demonstration of the Insight purpose-built reports that we have now. And if you are looking for more information, please reach out to Jillian and Rob to get any more information about mTuitive Insight. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Peter.
Hi, everybody. I assume that you can hear me okay. This is the mTuitive Insight dashboard. This is the user interface that we provide for our end users, which will contain many, many purpose-built reports. And as you can see, there's a list of reports with some that are coming soon, that are about to be released, whose release is imminent. And we have a long list of reports our customers are requesting that we're working through as quickly as we can, so that you have as many reports based on standardized CAP data as possible. And just wanted to point out that, you know, when you buy into mTuitive Insight, you get the reports that are there on the day you sign up, but you continue to get reports as they're added. So anything that we add in the future, you'll just receive as part of your subscription. Jumping right in, ER/PR/HER2. This is a report that's very common for pretty much every lab has to run a report like this for their CAP accreditation. I could choose different time frames. I'm going to start with just a summary. And you can see this produces a really nice visualization of our negative rates for ER/PR/HER2, as well as HER2 by two different methods. And the target range is this sort of beige bar. And, you know, you can see that in some cases we're in the target range, and in some cases we're not. We know that that will definitely vary by lab to some extent, and I know these are open to interpretation, but these are using some published standards and guidelines that, you know, most labs are targeting. At the bottom, you can always see the data that was used to create this report, and, you know, again, more visualizations to show whether you're on target or not on target. You know, as far as interpreting the data, let's say you think your lab is skewed in a certain demographic that might change your negative rates. In that case, we can go in and look at the demographics. And this is why we pull data from the LIS in addition to just the synoptic data, so that we can do things like this. So maybe we want to break that same report down by age. When we do that, you get a very similar graph comparing the negative rate across different buckets of ages. And because there's so much data at this point, we break down the ER/PR and so forth as their own report. So here's the HER2 by immunohistochemistry. You know, here's the HER2 by in situ. And at the bottom, always, again, we have those proportions listed graphically and all the numbers to back it up. And something to point out on any of these reports, you can always export a PDF or a CSV file. And the PDF is faithful representation of what you see on the screen, and the CSV, like you would imagine, is the data behind it that you can use for your own purposes if you'd like to do that as well. There are different ways to break down each report. So that was a demographic example. We could do the type of provider, in this case, pathologist, but we could also do the ordering physician. And in this case, we're going to see a list of pathologists anonymized on the left. So someone with the appropriate administrative privileges, chief of pathology, et cetera, could view the names so that they can, you know, address any issues or whatever the case may be. But it's always audit logged if that feature is used, and it's only enabled for people with appropriate access. But again, they can look at the same things we were looking at a few minutes ago, but comparing, you know, in this case, pathologist 4 against the standard, I mean, against the average of the entire lab. And again, as always, the data is there to back it up. You can export as a PDF, you can export as a CSV. Jumping back one more time, we could do ordering physician. We could break this down by site if we want to see how different labs are doing. To show that one, I think what I'll do is I'll jump into turnaround time, which is a different report. See how that one does by site. Okay, so here you can see that this is the summary view. This is a cumulative frequency graph, which shows, you know, for any target turnaround time, what % of our total cases fell within that target. So in this case, I'm looking at 3 days, and I can see that all of our biopsies were within, you know, within 96%. So depending on, you know, if 3 is our target, we're doing pretty well. We're 96% on that metric. We can also look at an individual site. You know, so in this case, site number 2 is not doing as well as the average on, you know, biopsies, for example, or any of these particular metrics. We can look at site number 3, and again, just break it down, comparing each site. If you have many sites, you compare each site to the overall and see, you know, if there's any outliers. And again, all the data is there at the bottom. And you can look at the names of the sites, again, with appropriate privileges. So hope that gives you a good idea of how our reports work. These are, you're going to see a common pattern emerge, you know, with those demographics, breakdowns, and different things like that across all the different visualizations we do. But there are many, many unique types of reports, you know, in pathology, in cancer centers that people are requesting. And we're working our way through that list, and there's many, many more to come. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Thank you very much.